Stealing 7, it can be tricky and it could be punishing for their major opponent. But I think in general, I do agree with you, Sol, that these players are very likely to stick to their primaries, which of course they have to at minimum start with. So we are ready to go into the game. Both players on their primary mage, which is fairly standard list overall. And Sottle, it's about that time.
It is. Just waiting on how ruptuous this round of applause has to end up being.
I thought you guys like waiting to see if he mulligans away the incandescent.
That would definitely not receive a round of applause.
I imagine so.
Yes. I mean, to be fair, you could mulligan away Incanter's Flow, and that still would not be the stupidest thing a representative of Barcelona has done this week.
Ha! Sports ball jokes. Is that right?
That's a good joke. Come on. What do you mean, Raven? Even you understood that. That was global news. That wasn't sports ball.
I prefer to keep my athletics types news digital. So.
Fair enough.
I'll get into it.
Oh!
AyRok, there you go. With the emote. Oh, he's done that before. Both players now playing an even game with double Incanter's Flow open. And now the card that's really the MVP, the Trick Totem.
Insta-brain.
Oh, what? I told you. Every time. Please stop with that one, Sol. Moving swiftly on from Sottle making strange noises down his microphone. A second Aegwin is cool, but is it as cool as a Trick Totem that does your job for you?
What?
I told you. It's the best card.
I was just fully prepared for it to brain freeze itself, like it literally always does. It's all just soul shears itself, drain souls itself, brain freezes itself. That's all that card ever does. And then boom, Incanter's Flow. Insane.
2 words for you, Sol. Get good.
Apparently, yeah.
All I wanted in life was to see Incanter's Flow number 2 off the top. We keep it simple though.
Really? Oh yeah, Cram Session in hand. Okay, I couldn't see the Cram Session for a second. It's like, you know, Netherwind Portal's pretty premium there, but yeah, makes sense. Cram Session in hand, pick up the Primordial Studies.
Do you like the 1-3 over just using the turn to play Ice Barrier?
I think so, yeah. I think it's reasonable. Just getting that 1 damage in is relevant if before your opponent starts dropping secrets. And, you know, Ice Barrier can very often just be a total non-factor in the matchup, especially when you don't have actual secrecy to your secrets, right? When you just have open deck lists with your opponent. If you play Ice Barrier, there's a good chance that, you know, you just played 0 mana 0 that game, and you get to deny your opponent from attacking with 1 small minion maybe, and that's the benefit that you got out of it, but it's very unlikely to get activated in most spots.
Yeah, maybe it's just like a counterspell proc at this moment in time.
Right, yeah, that's a good point.
Aegwin is going to hit the board, and I love this card, but it might not be good enough when there's a devolving missiles here, Sottle, if Frenetic feels the need to do so.
Oh, it says explode!
I don't think when your deck is as cheap as Frenetic's is, first and foremost is draw some cards. You can absolutely keep on going here. The cycle can come thick and fast, and this is the Jhin card at this point. Apexis Blast is not a bad pickup for next turn. You can just see there, if he'd have hit the Refreshing Spring Water, he would have gone all the way back up to 5. He would have been able to end that turn with an Apexis Blast if he really wanted to. They're still in there.
Yeah, I think he would have just fatigued himself if he hit Refreshing Spring Water at that point.
Wow. Disturbingly clunky hand for a deck that has, let's not forget, 1 Incanter's Flow on it. It's not quite the explosive start that Frenetic got with his Trick Totem, but should certainly be doing more impressive things than he's currently doing.
Yeah, and I think, although this turn looks fine, not getting Ring Toss down here hurts me just a little bit.
Right.
Just set up for next turn, now Ring Toss Occult Conjurer just as a worst case. He might just be dead though.
Boom goes the Dynamite, take 3 to the face. 1 Refreshing Spring Water, please. We will take an Apexis Blast instead, I suppose. take Mask. I can hear the argument for Mask as well. This turn is just going to be Raz, right? I don't think anything else is happening this turn.
I wondered if it could now be a Pexis Blast instead.
True. There is a 2-1 that you've just left on the board, though, by blasting this orb face.
That's fair, yeah. I'll be honest, forgot about the 2-1. I thought it was dead. This is fine. It's a minion that AyRok has to respect, right? You can't just leave Raz on the board. So he has to, like, deal 6 to it or devolve it somehow.
What is this clunky nonsense in AyRok's hand? How is his only way to deal with the Raz just to fireball it? That's not acceptable.
I think a part of me still likes a potential ring toss into 4-drops here.
I guess. I mean, I'm
Like,
sure you're just dead, but...
it's bad, but I think it's the least bad option.
It sucks, but I guess it's what we have. Yeah.
I mean, it's a good chunk of stats, right?
It is. I guess you can Ice Barrier up to just kind of make minions that are in play irrelevant. We talked about that dynamic already, where generally as soon as you see the potential for Ice Barrier in this matchup, you just stop attacking because it's just not worth it at that point. Uh-huh. Yep, it's like, oh, you're just going to combust straight up. Okay. Interesting. So you'd rather have the devolving than the combustion? It's interesting. I was considering whether it was devolving first to test for counterspell, and then combustion maybe could do more work clearing up if it was like Netherwind Portal or something, but it's debatable either way.
Okay, well, devolving now.
This is probably just a full clear, right? Because he has +3 spell damage now. Okay, yeah, close enough.
And AyRok just doesn't know what to do.
Yeah.
There's a Pexis Blast and Fireball in hand for next turn. There's so much health on the board that I think it's actually difficult for AyRok to clear this board anyway.
Yeah.
Like, he can Flame Strike, ping, and bop the 3/8. But that's his whole turn. And he ends the turn with nothing on board. Ugh. Trick Tome's got a lot to answer for, Sol.
It really does, yeah. It has to answer for crimes against this Mage Mirror, because it absolutely has ruined it.
I did have a funny feeling that it would pop off.
I'm not sure with just kind of how mid-rangey and clunky and expensive AyRok's draw has been, whether he would have been able to compete with like the much smoother draw that Frenetic's had even without the second discount, but obviously the second discount has contributed to the fact that Frenetic's draw was smoother this game.
It's like, do I even attack?
Probably not, right? Yeah.
I interest you in some Damahe.
Would have gone Varden there and held the other spell. Was that better or worse in any scenario? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I mean, you only put him to 1.
Right.
AyRok's got, excuse me, literally an impossible task this turn, which I do believe that will lead him to the old concede, since I don't think there's a way for him to beat ping.
No. And actually, this is right, isn't it? Because Frenetic's hand is empty, and he otherwise just has like an expensive Flame Strike in his hand. He doesn't want to have to deal with like counterspell stuff on the following turn, right? There's the opportunity that maybe goes wrong. So I think just setting up for straight ping is better. The only way that goes wrong is like if you just didn't put enough stats on the board, and then you get like burned out by Mask of Cthulhu and some other nonsense. But AyRok's deck is just in no way cheap enough to let that happen.
Yep.
So it's zero risk.
Oh!
We have come full circle, baby. Let's go.
AyRok's like, never again.
Yeah.
Oh, the honourable ping to his own face. AyRok AyRok's going to lose out game number 1 to Frenetic, and arguably to that Trick Totem is probably his nemesis right now, but it does mean he's only 1 game away from taking a total victory here for Frenetic, and like I said, both players in dire need of points this week, and this is the window they wanted, right? Like, a lot of the players who are high up on the European standings right now haven't made it. They're already out. So it means this is the chance, right? Knock out everyone else who's lower or in the same area, and then the people at the top aren't going to get any further anyway. So it could be a big week for either of these players that makes it through. Sol just chuckles away at Trick Totem being absolutely nuts.
No, it was good faux camera work there, just showing the juxtaposition between those two players and their reaction to really what may have ended up being a genuinely game-winning outcome. But Frenetic certainly had a few more of those on his side throughout the game as well, with the Raz coming off the Font of Power, the Mazaki coming off the Apexis Blast. Meanwhile, like, just look at AyRok's hand to tell the story on the other side, right? Like, Occult Conjurer, Reckless Apprentice, not the same quality of card that Frenetic was getting around as he gives the final cheeky eyebrow raise to the Trick Totem, and coming out again at the end.
And it's tough, right? Because I might be overselling this, I guess, but for me, even bringing Mage to Specialist feels rough, because if you're bringing it, surely you're expecting others to, right? Because you've decided it's good. I think it's fair to expect anything you would submit for others to, unless you purposely going out there, right? So I also feel like the Mage mirror at the moment is one of the most like wild mirrors, because I don't think we've ever seen or recently seen too many like close Mage games. It feels like one player just gets the ball rolling down that hill and it never stops. And so it's very, very difficult matchups to like fight back in, because obviously healing isn't a factor. Once you've been burnt down low, there's no way to recover health, so you have to just win then or lose. And it's also must just be tough for all these players bringing Mage who have either played in mirrors or are going to play in mirrors this weekend to like deal with this. And that's all. I think there's a small round of applause for AyRok at least.
There we go.
Sol's lost it. He's got no energy for this anymore.
I mean, it's not on the same level as, you know, Incanter's Flow into Trick Totem into second Incanter's Flow, is it? That's what gets the rapturous round of applause now. Oh, there it is!
Oh, no!
There it is, Raven! There's the real money. That's what I'm talking about. AyRok's a gamer.
And this is what I mean, right? Like, the Incanters is so strong that the draws early on versus not are so huge. Like, look at Frenetic. Oh! All over, just concede. AyRok, why do you look upset?
Oh, objectively the best Hearthstone deck that's ever existed. Like, don't at me. This is the greatest. Yep,
Wait a minute.
Yep. 100% the correct decision. You are not winning a normal game of Hearthstone anymore.
The refreshing spring water as well. It's so stupid. Just double fireball face turn 4. Go.
He could actually just deal 70. He could deal 20 if he went Primordial into Lab Partner.
Oh, put your opponent to 8. Turn 4 with 0 off on board. I like it. Could it ever be lethal? Can you get anything from the 5 cost that would make it lethal? Could, right? Would Mazaki get close? If you got Mazaki off the Apexis first?
If he got Mazaki off the Apexis first, yeah, 20...
And got Lab Partner,
point,
of course.
I think. Yeah, I think 22 at that point.
Go for it!
Similar if you got Raz, right? But yeah, I don't think anything got there. Again, I think it's theoretically possible if he'd found second Spring Water this turn as well. I know I like to talk about that every time, but I'm pretty sure it is potentially lethal every time you have a discounted Spring Water in your hand.
I feel like you've got some kind of brand deal with refreshing spring water.
I do.
You mention it a lot. Whereas Frenetic has good old normal cost Hearthstone cards. Imagine. Imagine paying 5 for an Apexis Blast.
Consecutive normal cards. I have the same ring to it.
Always hungry for more.
I'm gonna ring toss, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I was actually going to go for a brain freeze there.
just waiting for his Phoenix to wake up, right? And then he can just start popping off again.
It's feeding time.
What do you think, Sol? Cram session off the top next turn?
Always.
Frenetic proccing that counter spell, which again you have to. I think whenever you see a ring toss, I think it's fair to just expect the worst two secrets for you because it's so likely that your opponent can get them, or at least one of them.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting to me because as I like play at higher ranks, you know, if I'm like playing a reasonably high legend, I'll kind of pick the other ones because I know my opponent's already going to play around counterspell anyway, right? So they play a bad spell and it's like I already had counterspell, but then I also have Netherwind Portal or Oasis Ally or Rigged Fair Game or whatever else, right? I think that's kind of the deal that AyRok's gone for here. And now,
I don't care what you're talking about, Sol. This is lethal.
Mask of Cthulhu, turn 6 lethal. He had a 1-mana Springwater and a 0-mana Cram Session still in his hand. I think he could have done 60 that turn. Raven.
That game was naughty. That's all I'm going to say. I can't. Okay, that's why people play Mage. It is the crazy. That's probably the strongest single Mage game I've seen if we're basing it off just quickest kill, if that makes sense, you know what I mean? Not just like all the crazy deck of lunacy things you can see. But what are you supposed to do? Triple Incanter's Flow.
Oh, I want someone to make me a collage of like every GM's stank face, right? Like, you know when like the play is so dirty that it like genuinely looks like it smells bad? Like, I want that face from every GM because we're starting to get the collection where we've seen it from pretty much everyone at this point.
Yeah, someone scrapbook it or something, like get it together and send it to Sottle. That was brutal, but again, these mage moves I do feel are like, again, extreme examples, but I feel like the person who gets ahead and gets that card draw, and obviously the Incanters, is just so much more favored than one who doesn't, right? It's kind of ridiculous. And we see that both sides. Now, obviously, Frenetic had the crazy one off the totem in game 1. Now, AyRok just created a million Incanters and won the game 2, and it's going to come down to game 3. And again, although this is pretty fun for us, it must be at least a little bit frustrating for these players because it's just like, yeah, Mage, take the wheel and hope for the best.
I love this deck, Raven. It's so gloriously degenerate. Like, I love it so much. And I know at some point it is going to be fully taken away from me because it's the exact kind of thing, like, even after the Lunacy nerf, it's the exact kind of thing that they do tend to target with nerfs, i.e. things I like, generally, is the way Hearthstone goes.
And that's why I'm still here.
Oh my goodness, it's just so much fun. I do want to finish the point from the last game, though. Obviously, we got carried away with the point with the amount of damage. But it came from AyRok picking Rigged Fair Game in a match that's all about burning each other in the face, right? Which is kind of a point I was leading to. Because there's this weird dichotomy balance between Ice Barrier and the other secrets, sometimes you can just pick Rigged Fair Game and your opponent just won't attack your face because they think it's Ice Barrier, and then Rigged Fair Game just goes off and you draw a bunch of cards and it's insane. But I think in that spot it was much more heads up from AyRok because he understood that even though the minion was in play, it was going to have to trade, right? Like Keyword and Ivory was going to have to go into minions, so Rigged Fair Game was just going to allow him to pick up the game-ending burn on his Phoenix turn.
That's it. It's the next level knowledge, right? Of whether it's playing around what your opponent would expect or just knowing board state. Like I said, Frenetic was on the back foot, and you can't be on the back foot in this matchup, so he had to start trading down the board, which gave AyRok that opening. And it's a shame, obviously, that was a really nice play. You are completely right, but it just does get eclipsed by the silliness of triple Incanter's Flow.
Yep.
Looks like we're off to at least a bit more of a equal game, is probably the word I'm going to use.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Frenetic does have the float going, but he does not currently have any card draw. He just has a handful of pretty clunky, unfortunate minions. Yeah, Mask of Cthulhu is not the draw, so this, to round out the series and to round out the day, might just be the palette cleanser we need, which is the player with the immense advantage with the Incanter's Flow in the opening hand actually just getting beaten up because the rest of their hand is not really sufficient enough to get the job done.
It's one of those weird things, isn't it, where like with Incanter's Flow early, Font of Power kind of becomes the worst card in your deck, like instantly, because you don't want minions, you don't want a huge hand, you just want the spells and the card draw that then, that you naturally get hold of. So, yeah, it's, Frenetic's kind of stuck in a weird position here, and now we're even going to see this Fireball just to kill off the Elemental, respecting that he is losing board and starting to take a chunk of damage. Again, I liken the matchup to Hunter, where you can't just be hit in the face multiple times, because there's a point of no return if that happens.
Still got to be Blast, I think, right? It's just so much more tempo.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, there are options, right? He can flow and still kill off this minion, no problem.
He can, but the problem is he doesn't, like, develop a threat this turn, which means that Frenetic could just go, like, Arcane Intellect, Spring Water, yada, 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 with his Incanter's Flow, right? Whereas, at least by putting a minion in play, he kind of locks up some of Frenetic's mana to dealing with the minion. And I think if he locks up Frenetic's mana and dealing with the minion, next turn he can go like ring tossing Incanter's Flow, right? And then that's just a pretty effective turn. Having corrupted the ring toss with the Apexis Blast on the previous turn.
And because of the state of Frenetic's hand, I think it is reasonable for him to play a little bit more slowly. Yeah, like Fireball, play the minion up ping, he has Jandis for next turn. Because however much you go into a game with a game plan, right? You know in X matchup you want to do Y, I guess. There's also an aspect of, well, if your hand is full of one thing, you kind of have to do that thing, right? You can't like, oh, I'm going to go for the face plan with a handful of slow minions.
Right.
Incanter's Flow for AyRok. Let's get it done now. Insta attack phase.
Yeah, I mean, he has the hand that can deal with Ice Barrier, right? Most importantly, I think, here. He just has mid-rangey minions, so he's going to be trying to play mid-rangey minions. This is almost transformed, right? This now feels more like a spell damage mage versus a spell mage, where, one player just has minions every turn, and the other one's just trying to deal with it with spells. Actually a tough choice.
Yeah, I think I would have valued the card draw, but again, there's an argument of how much card draw can he get, because his hand is full of things that won't reduce, right? Like, you can't reduce his hand down. Maybe just having the bigger minions better? I think I would have made the Ogre strong.
Yeah, it's weird, right? You kind of take less damage this way, right? Like in terms of just factoring in how much damage it is, but like you said, you just have a whole extra minion doing it the other way around, which is kind of interesting.
Like, is this just... Does this gain any realistic points for going into Flame Strike turn?
Well, no, you get ruined by Combustion the other way around, I think is the problem, right? If they just shoot Combustion at the Jandis.
I guess, yeah.
Like, completely ruins you if you do it the other way around.
That's true.
I guess is probably the biggest reason.
Time runs out on me.
So we're going to get a good job done here. AyRok clears the board. Could argue he's still ahead here. He has that second Incanters in hand and has 2 secrets active. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. But both plays, I mean, last game was over by now, guys. Just as a reminder. Like, we're past turn 7 for both players. It's a big deal.
Actually, somewhat unfortunate for Frenetic. Even though that was Ice Barrier, which is a pretty irrelevant secret, he would have liked to have a secret here.
Oh, for the Occult?
For the Occult Conjurer. Because I think, interestingly, right, even though, say there wasn't a secret in play there and he could have just ripped Mask of Cthulhu without fear of Counterspell, I'm still not sure in the position he's in whether that's the good line. Because he's already spent 2 fireballs on minions this game, right? So if he goes Mask his opponent and his opponent goes Mask you right back, your opponent's favored to win that race, right? Because they still have their fireballs in their deck and you don't. So there's a good chance that they just draw more burn on average over the course of the game.
No, I completely agree. This Firework Elemental is going to get some work done since it is all corrupted, which means he can just one-shot this Mozaki.
He is. All right, refreshing's a good pickup as well.
Just gonna blast refreshing.
Don't have that much mana.
Did you not? Yeah, wouldn't you firework refreshing?
Yeah.
I was confused for a second.
I don't know how much mana you think you're going to get back from refreshing spring water, but it's not that much. Hope to be able to Apexis Blast this minion. Can't. Oh, that's insane, though. As good as it was for Casey, it is equally bad for AyRok here.
The 5/6 as well, of course. This the Frenzy might hit the 5/6, obviously by accident, but it might not, right? And it's a good shape. Kind of awkward to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is the Flame Strike turn.
Yeah, it has to be the Flame Strike turn, right?
Stops the Frenzy going off.
Now, obviously, he'd love a minion he can attack with here, but still, 6 health on board soaking up mask damage might still be relevant over the course of the game for AyRok.
Bit of a weird one, right? Because I actually like Devolve here, even though it might give AyRok an active minion. So I don't think, because the game is so close, I don't think you want to give your opponent a prime.
Sword, shield, axe. What do you
I was not going to. Oh, I'm really surprised that I would be terrified, and maybe too terrified, of giving him a prime here. Ping the 3/5.
arm yourselves?
It's cute. Does it do anything? Is 1 damage to face going to be more impactful over the course of the game? Hard to know from the position of 16. It's not like there's a really clear break point, but damage face is your primary currency when you're playing Mage Mirrors, right? So it's investing a lot into the idea that these minions might get to attack.
Or soak damage themselves, remember, right?
True.
Does he, like, effectively put more health on board?
Yes, that is actually a very, very good point.
It's just Oasis, right?
Is it?
Is Frenetic going to aim these minions' face after this? I think this is what we've been talking about for a while, so all serious. Is Frenetic going to go face with these minions after seeing Ring Toss?
Right.
And that's what you're betting on, right? You're wrong or right, that's your choice.
Right. Again, like, if your turn doesn't involve actually, like, throwing any burn at the face, you still have to play around Rigged Fair Game, right? Which is what you got burned by in the last game. So unless you are able to allocate 2 mana to pinging face, you kind of have to play around that. But yeah, I mean, in the end, it's kind of a redundant argument because he's picked the minion secrets and cleared the board, which is kind of weird. But
I don't know about that. Yeah,
would have been weird if it was Ice Barrier as well. To be fair,
I would just left up the tiny Finn. He deserves a chance.
Yeah.
Evolving now going to come down. I imagine Frenetic will want to clean this up, especially after seeing Netherwind.
Ooh!
Okay,
Second time today, the juice.
Yep. Not holding a candle to the 80th time today we've seen Ysera get bounced.
Nope.
Still, good try.
This is crucial though. 4-2 still in play. The ping is going to go face to play around that last secret, which I do like.
Wait a minute.
20 damage!
And now he's doing a good job of putting more health on, right?
He is. Is that important? Is that more important than a ping? Because now lethal isn't... Like, you just don't have lethal if your board gets cleared. Isn't pinging just better?
I think AyRok's realised. I think, and I'll be honest, I didn't know the ping put him to 7, I didn't count.
My powers are never true.
Still might be enough. Oh! Oh! Numbers!
It's 4 damage goes
Look at
face. That's all garbage. Yeah, Cone of Cold, refresh. Combustion clears Mask of Cthulhu for the exact 11.
Wow.
That's 12, even with the +2 spell damage. Insane ending once again, with Springwater coming in clutch. And Frenetic is going to clutch that one out after, honestly, one of the most insane sets of 3 Mage Mirrors I've seen in my life. They tend to be pretty cool. They tend to be pretty explosive, Raven, but that was 3 in a row of some pretty high-tier excitement levels in Mage Mirrors.
Yeah, and that's nutty. And you can see there, commiserations, I guess, for AyRok, because he was super disappointed with the outcome. But this is what I was talking about all series. And what you've just spoken about is the Mage Mirror is so crazy because it can go multiple different ways, whether it's just the early Incanters flow to then go tons of the cycle, or the moments like we saw where you think you're ahead, you think you're setting up lethal, and then your opponent just gets you, right? And there's just nothing you can do about it because we've seen throughout the day, players are keeping spells that they can just throw away into a counter spell on purpose, obviously, to be able to open up turns like this. And it was huge, and congratulations to Frenetic. But I think that